In this video, we're going to be discussing the top 5 challenges of running multiple businesses. And I think this video is going to be very interesting because Clark, right there, is my COO. So Clark is in the weeds of helping me truly run the day-to-day on these businesses. And Clark being so integrated in them will give you a very clear insight as to the true issues of having so many things and so many balls in the air. What do you think?
Off the top of my head?
Yeah, like, and the reason why I think off the top of your head is the most interesting, because they're going to be the most, you're not going to don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like these are the things that are at the forefront, and I can think of a couple as well.
Yeah.
But I think the way that you put them and the fact that you're more articulate will be more interesting.
I think the number one thing is understanding how each, project or endeavor in any one business could either positively or negatively impact the other businesses. It's something that we always struggle with.
I guess, like, before we even get into the rest of the video, let's explain the businesses that we actually have that take up the most of our time. Number 1, Canadian Protein. For right now, number 1, Canadian Protein. Number 2, BioSteel now. Number 3, the golf course. Number 4, Coachwood Capital, the real estate business, which is, I guess, not so much taking a lot of our time moving forward, but I would like to eventually get a little deeper into it. Ever since BioSteel came about, Coachwood Capital took a back seat, not from an operational perspective, because I have, especially my property manager, John Saperdanis, running the show now, from me sourcing new projects and investments. So I would say those 4. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's what takes up most of the time.
A 5th for me would be my personal real estate portfolio. But as a group where I have employees, it would be...
I would say a 6th is like your personal brand.
My personal brand, which doing these style videos where they're impromptu, they're organic, they're completely authentic, there's minimal editing, is going to be a lot less.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of because I think I'm involved with, at least from a small perspective, involved in each one of the businesses.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, like, in any one given project or endeavor, how does it positively impact, negatively impact the other ones. I think earlier on, each of the businesses felt very separate, and so sometimes we would go deep into a certain project and then only later on down the road feel like we're understanding what the repercussions might be on, like, doing this is actually negatively impacting that.
Yeah.
So I think now that we're getting bigger, we're more like incorporating everything together, which I think is actually having a positive impact, whereas like we understand like
you mean, like, when you say incorporating everything, you mean what exactly for people?
Yeah, like, let's say, for example, understanding, okay, if we're talking about bringing in a new machinery or any sort of project in our real estate here, like in our facilities, doing this project could actually both benefit Canadian Protein and BioSteel simultaneously.
Yeah, there's synergies for sure.
Right, there's synergies.
Yeah.
Or, for example, it's like...
Which is really the reason why I did buy BioSteel.
Yeah.
For more context, I did buy BioSteel because there's so many synergies across both brands. That really is one of the main reasons.
Yeah. So I'd say, like, that's the one thing that I feel like is going good, but it's definitely like a challenge in a sense, is like there are times where a huge problem comes up for any one particular one of the businesses, and that then there's less time and like human capital resources to be spending on the other businesses. So we found, for example, sometimes with Canadian Protein, it's kind of like, it's just very steady. So sometimes we just kind of take advantage of the fact that it is...
Take it for granted.
We take it for granted.
For sure. I know I do.
Yeah, so we just become very quiet on that front because it's just very steady. And all of a sudden we started noticing that a certain problem was just slipping by because it wasn't smacking our face.
Yeah. Or we're not seeing the same growth rate as we historically had seen. And then we're like, oh, wait a minute. We didn't even send out an email, like, within this was exaggerated during the purchase of BioSteel, where Canadian Protein actually the sales started to decline because we were in the middle of a move as well. We bought BioSteel and
we were setting up our existing facility to be run for the largest Costco contract that we've ever done. So we not only were moving to a whole new facility and getting that set up, which is in and of itself a very large project. We were retrofitting our existing facility for Costco. We were simultaneously trying to figure out what the fuck was going on with BioSteel and getting that all cleaned up, and then still operating the other businesses all at the same time.
And during that whole transition, we had planned to have X amount of stock manufactured I then bought BioSteel. The transition took longer than expected because of everything going on. We ran out of a ton of stock. Canadian protein sales started to decline. Now they're back up, or they're starting to. Did you see sales today?
No.
They're huge.
Nice.
Yeah, already. Get a look at that real quick.
Our conversion rate's high. It's at 7.5%.
7.5%. Yeah,
which is very good.
So almost $40,000 a day is not even half done yet. So very, very good there. Now 38,000. I mean. So a couple other stuff.
$38.
$38.
We sold one bag of protein.
Yeah, $3,800. I remember those days actually. I remember like $3,800, which is crazy. Anyways, okay. So number one thing, what would you say it is? Well, let's start from 5. If you could figure out like the less.
Yeah. So you're remind me your question again. It was like how
the 5 most challenging things about running multiple businesses.
Yeah. So I would say projects impacting the other businesses is definitely one in no particular order. I'm just, once again, this is not scripted at all, so this is just off the top of my head. I would say another one that we're faced with is, to put it politely, ADHD. I've always wanted to take on a new project, the coolest new thing, whatever. I feel like we've learned to try to hone it to be like, okay, whatever the biggest, most problematic new thing, here's what we need your attention on. But we've definitely had periods of time where something new and very exciting would pop up, but then never necessarily matriculate into something substance.
Yeah, I love new businesses. I love new ideas, and I have a hard time understanding what's in front of me and taking and wanting to take that to the next level. I always want the next new thing, right? I like the shiny object. I have the shiny object syndrome. Right? And I happen to think I sometimes have good ideas, but like what you always say, sometimes the newest, best idea isn't the most profitable and the most economical, efficient. Like you're starting a whole new thing, and when we're staring down the barrel of a 9-figure business that we're kind of, again, like what we just said, neglecting or taking for granted.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think that's also that's just the nature of you being a serial entrepreneur and a highly creative person, is that we're just realizing how to part of the
ignore me
nature of your process. Not necessarily ignore, it's understanding.
Rope me back in.
Understanding sometimes, even though you're let's do this right now, there's times where we have to know what the biggest priority is and still make sure that those things on our own, making sure those things aren't slipping through the cracks, right?
Yeah.
So it's trying to figure out the balancing act of when a new priority might come up. It's okay, well, how does that come in priority level to what the existing things that might take a very long time, or it's just a recurring task that you have to do every day or every week or whatever, and how to manage that and kind of each person's role, right? So it's not necessarily ignoring you, because there's times where your hyper creative, rapid problem solving is extremely valuable. It's just trying to understand that sometimes that's not the end all be all, and how we all operate our daily jobs, right? So it's incorporating that hyper creativity in with everything to help move things along very quickly, but understanding that there's going to be lots of times where ideas just don't actually move forward, but that's okay. That's just the landscape of being with a fucking highly creative entrepreneur. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get better, trying to get better at that, where we have so many things already going on. I don't want to do it. For example, one of the things we have is our home building license. Yeah. I'm let's build all kinds of houses. Yeah. But I'm no, we can't. We can't do that. So, okay, But
I guess we're also seeing though that we don't, I think another big thing is that we're trying to, at least I'm trying to shift your responsibilities away from regular recurring tasks. Because ultimately when I think of a bigger company, the CEO should not be bogged down by daily operational anything. Right? It should be that you're stepping in for large problems, or when something needs to be a final decision, or it's really the future of the business, big project, big vision, right? When it comes to, once we know what to do, you shouldn't fucking be involved at all. You should just hand it off to somebody and move the fuck on, right? And so we're realizing how to go from a owner operator to now more of a larger company, where you're really you're coming up with the idea or solving the problem, whatever it is, and then giving it to somebody and okay, do it. Yeah. Right? Think about John's role for Coach Capital. You're hey, this is what I want. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. And then you're just monitoring it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we got 2.
Okay. So I would say, another obvious one is just financial restrictions. Yes. Right. So there's pros and cons there. We've had obviously you would not have been able to buy BioSteel if it wasn't for the backbone of Canadian protein. Yeah. Right. That's obvious. And so even, for example, a lot of the growth opportunities that have come from the strong finances of Canadian Protein historically. So there's that benefit, but then there's also like money is limited at the end of the day, right? So it's like if you're wanting to spend $10 million on new machinery for Canadian Protein and you're not getting any benefit from BioSteel, it's like that. How do you, from the pool of money that is available, how do you allocate it towards each business where it's like fair and equitable?
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the third one. Fourth, what do you think?
Fourth would be, I mean, it kind of ties into
like human capital. Would you say?
Yeah,
I would say
there's pros and cons there. Like
did we kind of touch on that one already or no?
I can kind of break it down like more further. It's like we have
there's just so much resource that can only go around, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel like maybe I could touch on this one too. I feel like again, when we don't have enough human capital to go around, everything gets done. It gets done slower, but it doesn't get done, like the execution of it isn't, I guess, optimal.
Yeah.
It's not done the best, right? But there's also something to be said for like what we've talked about, getting something done. What do you always say?
Yeah, that like it's better to make a decision than
not even that.
Try to make a perfect decision.
Which I agree with that. However, what do you always say? Getting things. What the fuck do you always say?
Is that what, like?
No.
You're referring to something else?
No, yeah, I am. I'm referring to accomplishing a task for the most minimal amount of work to accomplish that task.
Yes.
Like for example, our newsletters when I was telling Dave, stop going to graphics and having all this nice shit completed and done and everything like that. Literally just take a template or a screenshot or even make a GIF inside of the newsletter and put that out, because all we need to do is communicate what's on sale and that's it. And lo and behold, what happens? We do that, the conversion rate doesn't even fall off. So they're spending hours a day drafting up nice emails when a simple screenshot in a 5-minute newsletter accomplishes the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So
and I think like trying to breed a culture where everyone kind of thinks that way is like, what is the ultimate problem that I'm trying to fix here, or what's the outcome that I'm trying to get to? Yeah, what's the fastest way possible in order
the shortest road to point A to point to point B, or point A to Z.
Like whatever. This our cleaning up our books recently, like this week, in terms of just kind of getting everything in line for the bank, rather than me trying to make it fucking perfect with absolutely every line item being perfect. It's like, hey, what is the bank looking for? Okay, well, let's work backwards. The bank is looking for this. What's the fastest way that I can get this information uploaded that the bank's gonna be like, yep, I'm good to go with this.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like going through each project, no matter what it is, and being like, hey, what is the ultimate thing what we're trying to accomplish here? And yeah, what's the fastest way of doing it? So I think that's definitely one thing. And to the point earlier of what you said, like in terms of how does it impact the other businesses, I'd say as we grow too, it's like each person understanding that is that person's role in our shared services, meaning like that they're working amongst multiple businesses all at once, which is definitely like the more challenging roles, because they have to be really good at understanding what the ultimate priorities are. Or two, maybe we'll have more and more people that are hired for only one company, right? Like our new director of supply chain, very high level role, but that's only BioSteel, right? Like he's not getting in the weeds of other things. So it's helping because, like, sure, we can ask him questions or whatever, but he has a very clear like scope of work in terms of what we're expecting.
Fifth thing, what would you say?
Fifth thing
is? I have a kinda. Sure. I would say. I wouldn't mind your opinion on it. I would probably say finding the right people to manage the right business. The reason why I say that is because we ran into an issue with a manager at the golf course. He was awful, and we put someone else that was actually helping to manage another area of our other business, put him in the golf course role, and he's thriving. So I would probably say that, making sure that you're not just trying to fill space with someone that might not be right for the job, because that ends up creating way more problems than solving. Would you say that's the fifth one, or do you have another fifth one that you could think of? Like a bonus one, a bonus fifth point, or a sixth point.
A bonus one?
Yeah, the sixth, like a sixth bonus, or something that you were thinking about might not even be.
When people ask me what I do for a living.
Is that a problem?
I'm like, I don't even know how to fucking explain this.
Yeah, maybe you just gotta say like, I don't even know. What do you actually say?
I sometimes fuck with people too. I took on your approach approach of just being like
hand model or something.
Well, you say hand model.
I don't even know what I say. So I say some fucked up shit sometimes.
Oh, sometimes I'll just be like, they'll be like, oh, what do you do for a living? Well, I have an OnlyFans, and I'll just like say it so like so just bluntly that they're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, do you have a fifth one or no? You think we covered them?
I think that's
the five?
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's covered.
Cool.
Yeah.